Welcome to another episode of the Tough Stuff Podcast.
Be sure to like, love, share, or subscribe wherever you may be watching or listening, because we believe God wants to bring encouragement and hope through these stories.
What's going on, Tough Stuff Podcast? How you guys doing today? Hopefully it's a splendid Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever day may be here for you. But I'm here with the one and the only Matt Buspice. And man, I'm excited about today to get into some stuff. What's up, Matt?
What's up, Chris? I purposely didn't shave as soon as you asked me to be on the podcast a week ago, maybe. So I'm not competing too well, but I got more grays than you.
Well, hey, bro, if you don't know this, but this is actually for you. I knew you'd be on this podcast one day, and I'd never killed a deer, so I've got to do something masculine, you know
that
what I'm
compensates.
saying? To kind of get on your level.
That does. I just want to know.
It's like a truck with big wheels and tires. It's a compensation. You know what I'm saying?
But are you using just for men?
No, man.
You ain't colored? That's natural?
All natural,
I'm just
dude.
making sure, man.
I've got one for each kid and then one gray hair for each year I've been married, bro, and that's about it.
This is just single manhood. All that gray coming in full plume right there.
But yeah, man, it's good to be here. I'm excited about Matt. I'm excited to Matt because honestly, man, I want to hear a little bit about you, about your story. And honestly, I don't even know it, dude. And this is something great about you, man. You've got something about you. And I don't know if it's anointing or I don't know if it's just you're a lunatic, but it's something attractive, bro. Because I remember the first time I encountered Matt Buspice was at the church. We had a 5 o'clock service. And every time we posted after we canceled this service, this dude would post, "Bring back the 5 o'clock." And anyone who worked the 5 o'clock hated the 5 o'clock.
Amen.
And then I remember just meeting you at the church, man. You got a personality, life inside of you.
Well, hey, no, I didn't know that was your first impression of me. That I started a boycott at our church, Healing Place in Baton Rouge, because it's a mock boycott. But I was like, hey, people go out on Saturday night. I've been single. I got a girlfriend now, but I've been single all my life. And I go out Saturday nights, and I love God, but I go out. And I sleep on Sunday. Yeah. And Healing Place, that 5 p.m. was so good. I loved just sleeping in, going to eat, then going to church, and then COVID hit. And then now they cancel my 5 p.m.
Which you didn't know was my wife oversaw. She still does all of the Instagram, the social media. So when you first started posting these things, she would call her boss and be like, "Hey, do I need to delete this guy off of this?"
I was trolling our church Instagram.
And you're like, you mentioned a name. He was like, "Oh, that's Matt Buspice. He's this, he's that." There was a little buzz about Buspice, man. So I wanted to get to know you, bro, and man, put this thing together. I know God's obviously done something in your life, man. You've been pretty steadfast in your faith in so many different arenas, so many different areas in which you do life, man. So tell us a little something about yourself, Matt. Who are you? Who is Matt Buspice?
I like to say I'm a redneck coon-ass from Louisiana.
We're gonna get the explicit rating for that. We've got it before though, but it's all right.
We'll bleep that out. But I'm a hybrid. My dad's from North Louisiana. My mom's from South Louisiana. And what you have is a coon neck or a red.
Yeah.
So Louisiana, born and raised, and grew up hunting and fishing like most guys I grew up around. And so with that, I love hunting, fishing, outdoors. That's my happy spot, whatever. So college, long story short, normal childhood, high school, played a little sports. Basketball was the one I played. Go to college, was a fraternity guy, which I'm not that proud of anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of like, I can't believe I was a fraternity guy. My mom signed me up.
How old are you?
I'm now 4.2, I call it.
All right.
So
fraternity in that day, was it polos? Khaki shorts?
For sure.
What was the prep look at that?
The fraternity look at that day and age, standard issue stuff was your jeans, polo shirt with a collar or khaki shorts with New Balance shoes.
New Balance,
really? That was the look. But I never, so I kind of was 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I got into it, then I got out of it. I was like, man, I don't know what I feel. In fact, I know this is kind of a Christian-based podcast. I know that you're a pastor I don't know what kind of pastor you are, but
I don't either, bro.
Okay,
I don't either.
So I'm going to say things how I'm going to say it is that I had confliction going on in college of, I know that there's something wrong with this fraternity, meaning that I'm a part of it because everything that we're doing is to go out, party, try to do good at school.
Yeah.
And we had very little spiritual talks and spiritual friendships in there. And dude, I was empty in my junior year at LSU in college. Because I think freshman, sophomore, and the start of junior year, all I did was feed myself, partying, what I needed to do to make grades, make some money. I had little summer jobs to make sure I had some money to do what I wanted. You just feed me. By junior year, I was kind of getting depressed out of nowhere. Yeah. And I'm not going to blame it on the fraternity system.
Oh, for sure.
I'm blaming it on college, really, and growing up and just being selfish. And so basically, I was a KA. I got out. While I was a KA in college, my brother had started a deer feed company. He had just graduated college. He's 3 years older than me. So I'm a college fraternity guy, and I'm trying to help my brother. I'm like, dude, you're doing a hunting company? I want to be a part of that. I love hunting. I'll never forget it. I'm looking at some packaging I'm helping design for our deer feed company, and they got a computer in the frat house. And all of my friends, a bunch of doctors and lawyers, kids, looking over my shoulder, typical fraternity guys are like, what the hell are you doing, Buspice? You want to start a deer feed company with your brother? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, isn't that cool? Yeah. Like, this is something I'm into. They're like, oh, that's the worst idea. You need to go help run your dad's trucking company. That's where the money is. And I'm like, no, man, I really just want to do this deer feed thing. And so God, that's when my career is what I believe God let me start my journey to really find
kind of like that
him.
Vehicle.
Because my career became my life, really. I was launching hunting products from college, still doing it today, 20 years later. I can't believe it goes by that fast. Yeah. But that's who I am. I'm typical Louisiana guy, grew up in South Louisiana, went to LSU, partied, started my business, and then followed my career. But God ended up revealing himself kind of in my mid-20s as a real thing in my life. I never got that.
Did you grow up in church or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. In religion, kind of church messed me up. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no, man.
But church messed me up because you grow up. I'm going to church with my dad and mom at a Baptist church, but my aunt's Methodist. My other aunt and uncle's Catholic. All my friends are Catholic, but my grandfather's Jewish. My grandmother's Episcopalian. My other grandma was a Pentecostal. So
That's a lot.
I'm like, who's right? Who's wrong? Who's right? Who's wrong? I'm like, and I'm trying to find God by going to different churches and then studying other people and how happy I think they are. And I was like, and then I got my friends telling me Catholic's the only way, and I got Baptist people saying Baptist is the only way. And I'm like, man, I know that. I always loved God, but I was mixed up in what I really believed. And so basically, typical guy growing up, it took me getting out of college, starting my career. And when my career took off in my mid-20s, when you have everything, money, girls, women, friends, truck that jacked up, whatever you got.
That wasn't personal earlier, dude.
Like whenever you got your own apartment or condo, you're paying for your own. When you got it all, and I'm saying it doesn't take much in the United States. You're already spoiled if you're born here.
Yeah, for sure.
You can make a living in whatever you want to do. Yeah. Pay for your own living, and whenever you do that. You can get up there, but that's whenever I kind of started to hit rock bottom.
You get stuck in that hamster wheel.
Yeah, because think about it. If I felt like if I have everything and I felt empty inside, and I'm already in my mid-20s, late 20s, and I'm like, why am I so empty? I have everything. that's whenever I started exploring, well, I got to do this spiritual hunt. I got to go church hunting. So I went around Baton Rouge church hunting, and I had a really attractive girl working for me at the time, and I asked her where she went to church because she was beautiful inside and out.
Yeah.
I knew she was a nice girl, and she told
Way
me
to clean that up, you know. She was beautiful inside and out.
I did. But I asked her, I said, hey, where do you go to church? And I was like, she goes, oh, I go to Healing Place. I was like, oh man, that sounds like a rehab center.
It does sound weird, man. So we get all these things for a while. Like, I love putting Healing Place Church on things. And they're like, no, you need to start just putting Healing Place.
Yeah.
Like Healing Place Men. And I do. That just sounds so weird, man.
It always had a weird stigma to it. So I waited a little bit, but I ended up saying, hey, can I join you for church one day? And she's like, yeah, for sure. So I meet her there, and I think she was sitting with her friend, and I got there late. I didn't even sit by her. And I sat in the back.
Was it the 5 o'clock service?
Oh, heck yeah, it was a 5 p.m. service. What are you talking about? I'm going at 5 p.m. and we're gonna get one back at HBC. But anyway, when I really knew God was starting to work on me, because when I was leaving, I was crying in my car by myself from the message. And I didn't know at the time what that was, but it was just the Holy Spirit really overflowing. But it hit me after about 5-10 minutes of crying in the car by myself. I go, Matt, you're not crying in the car by yourself because you're having a blast, having fun. And I like to have fun. I like to have a blast in whatever I'm doing. He goes, you're crying in the car right now because you're experiencing a real spiritual thing that you're being moved by what's the Holy Spirit, and God's affirming to you that what you heard in church is now activated in you, and it's starting to change. It's starting to change me. And then combined with multiple 3 a.m. discussions with Willie Robertson. We worked with the Robertson family, the Duck Dynasty family. We partnered with them to make some of their Duck Commander products, and we hunted together. So Willie would pound me with real biblical stuff. And that was all in my mid-20s, late 20s. And that's what really changed my heart, was somebody that I respected, such as Willie, and real men.
Had that relational equity.
Yeah.
You got to look at him. You want to be like him.
Yes.
You actually look attractive, where you see a lot of Christian males today, and you're like, bro, I don't even want to live. I don't want to be like you. Why would I listen to you about Jesus, you know?
I mean, let's talk about that for a second, because if you look at what a Christian male looks like sometimes today, and the quickest way to look at Christian men is you start scrolling.
ChristianMen.com.
Yeah.
I haven't been to that one. Christian Mingle.
You go to, let's just say this. You can go where these ChristianMen.coms are, or just go to TikTok or go to Instagram Reel, and I get hit with a bunch of messages from, pastors or youth pastors or church guys that are doing these messages. And for me, if you don't look like an outdoorsy kind of man's man, I don't necessarily quickly want to listen to you.
Yeah. That's why I grew the beard, bro.
Thank you.
Like, honestly, it was to target you. We wanted to make sure that you really were saved,
Oh, man. No, I didn't. I just really have a issue.
I know what you're saying,
I can't get it out of my head, because a lot of the times, if you got the skinniest of jeans and they're gripping your ankles, and nothing against that, or if you got these wacky big glasses, and you got this crazy, I can't talk because I got a crazy haircut. I got a mini mullet, and look at this dog's hair. I'm not talking bad about hair, but it's all about the look. And for me, I guess it took a bearded North Louisiana redneck
huge, man.
Like Willie Robertson to talk to me that had a wife, he had kids, he was living the hunting, true outdoorsman. A guy like that connected with me. I'm so thankful. And he told me about the gospel.
Wow.
And then I was going to Healing Place Church whenever I was in town. I travel 200 days a year, so I'm not going to church regularly. So catching Healing Place online on YouTube, going to church, and then a combination of just people that would come. It just was a perfect storm.
Like God just put them divine appointments in front of you, man.
And then it was just boom.
Yeah.
I'm here. I want to get baptized. I want to really kind of give my life to God, and everything changed.
Wow.
Everything changed as far as my happiness and my joy levels in my life went to here, where they were always up and down based on my situation.
What's going on.
Yeah. And then once you get God and you realize He's real, I think Bruno's feeling this too. Once you get
take
God,
him to the altar, man.
You want to get baptized, Bruno?
Bruno, get out of here, dude. Go.
But that's where I wish I could just tell somebody out there, anybody, that if they would hear this one thing, and Bruno, lean in, you are not going to ever find joy and happiness in your life without God.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds hard to hear because I once heard that and didn't want to believe it. But if you want to have true joy and happiness in your life, you need to realize that you're here because of a creator.
Yeah.
And the creator, I believe, is God. But if you're an atheist out there, you have to believe first to be an atheist that two rocks went big bang and formed Bruno, the dog, you, Chris, and yourself and me. That's impossible.
Which is such a crazy thought. You're telling me like you grew up believing that, which I didn't.
No. I said I grew up believing in evolution earlier before we hopped on here.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in evolution.
Which is such a crazy thought. I guess I've never really delved into it either. You know, my mom just always told me it's evil, it's wrong. And then I watched some guy who said the platypus was the only thing the evolutionists can't prove or whatever. And it was like God's sense of humor. But I think it's so much, bro. Like we miss, as a church, I feel like we've missed so many men, bro. And that was my story dude, I grew up in church and dude, I look around and man, I wasn't into hunting. I was into tattoos and shoes and all of this kind of stuff. And I look around and it's like all these guys that are a little, not masculine, I don't know, man. They weren't something that I wanted to look like. You know, so I'm like, man, I don't belong here, obviously. And then I ended up going, found Jesus. Jesus chased me down into rehab. But I talked to a guy that owns a rehab today, and his same thing. He's like, how do we bridge this gap? Because I've got all these guys that are hungry for God, but then they come to church and they meet these guys that are like, how you doing today, sir? Blessed and highly favored, you know, that are like, dude, what is that? I can't get that, you know?
No, I can't get over that hump. One of my best buddies in the hunt industry is named Kip Campbell. He's one of the funniest dudes you ever talk to. Anyway, what he told me, I'll never forget. We didn't know where we were with God. Like, I didn't know where he was at and where I was at. But Kip was like, dude, you just got to be real with it, man. Like, don't put on this fake aura about you and say, man, I love Jesus, and have this smile and be like, Jesus changed my life. Changing the way
start catching that twang.
You know, like, and he's like, that's turned me off. And he's from Virginia. He's a backwoods redneck from Virginia, and he'll tell you that. I'm not trying to talk down. I'm just saying how
you said that you were there at the very beginning of this.
And so he's like, man, you know what turned me off was the whole posture these Christian men put on and kind of like perk up and start changing the way they talk and say, let's hear about Jesus and how he changed your life.
And I think that's what it was that was not attractive about you, but, you know, good looking guy. But that was what is that you've kept it authentic, bro. You've stayed who you are, true to yourself in the field that you're in. Yet you've also been true to yourself about this faith that you found, you know. And I think we have a lack of that because we do. I mean, we are very much chameleons, bro, just as people. Like, I mean, I remember one time I worked in the plant for a few years, and dude, I grew up like in the hood, you know. We wore Jordans. I've had gold teeth, all that kind of deal. I've never listened to country music, but bro, I'm working in the plants.
You look like my buddy who sings country music, kind of.
Who's that?
Its doppelganger is Dylan Scott, especially with the beard.
That's Micah's boy? Heckford.
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard
yes.
that name.
You and Dylan could be cousins.
All right.
Kissing cousins.
All right. Maybe
That means
so.
not like close cousins.
I thought
like
that meant that
second or
cousins.
third.
I got you.
Okay.
But man, I don't even know where I was going with that.
No, because you said it. Whenever I was.
Oh, but like I ended up in a plant for 2 years. Next thing I know, I'm going to buy some air yachts and some Wranglers.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
chameleons.
We do. We naturally want to fit in. You know, and we have so many guys that are masculine. They love to be outside. They love it. Which the more I mature, bro, the more that I realize, man, we were created to be outside. And I'm a city kid. But, man, we were created to get outside and to move and to hunt and to, man, pursue things. And just like you said, man, the difference between you being in college and you want to go pursue this endeavor with deer feed, so many people will just follow into this track of let's just go get a career, get a job, and then they end up being 35, 45 years old and they're miserable and they've got no adventure left in their life. And a lot of times that's where I feel like a lot of affairs start, adultery. Guys are like, man, I have no, because we're created to build, to grow, to get out and do things, endeavors, you know. And I think we get bored. And when they get bored, they end up looking at porn. Porn's a thrill, something to make me feel alive, something to make me feel again, which is kind of that same deal like you were talking about earlier, man, where we try to find joy in these things.
Oh, man, dude, I got in not an argument, I got in a little bit of a discussion with my girlfriend, and I didn't mean to upset her. So this wasn't an argument or it wasn't even a heated thing. I just upset her, I believe, on accident because we were talking in the car, and this is going to talk about joy.
Yeah.
But me and her talking in the car, and she's like, you know, saying something about, but don't I bring you more joy into your life and everything like that? And I was like,
I see where this is going.
And so what I said to her, I said, hey, you bring me a lot of happiness in my life, but joy is something that only God gives me.
Yeah.
And she was, you know, a little thrown off at that because she didn't know how serious that I was going to get because I ended up going deep with her serious. I was like, listen, there's one thing about happiness and there's one thing about joy that changed my life. I can go get happy from a cup of coffee. Mm. I can go get happy for some good music that I like. I like to have a little wine and drink. I can get a little happiness out of that. I can get happy when I shoot a big buck. I can get happy when I shoot a duck. I can get happy when I call in a turkey. Shout out to NWTF and shoot a turkey in the face. That gives me happiness, but that all is fleeting and it's quick and it goes away.
Yeah.
But my joy, I can get happy when my girlfriend and I are hanging out. I forgot about baby, I love you.
Yeah.
I can get happy with her.
Man, you're getting serious, Buspice.
But you cannot give me joy. Nothing on this world can give me joy.
Yeah.
Because joy is lasting and it doesn't, you know why joy lasts? Because it's given from the Father in heaven and Jesus.
Yeah.
And whenever they give you the joy that can never be touched, it's the most valuable thing in my life because it's so emotionally expensive and spiritually expensive to get joy in your life. That's why everybody wants joy.
Yeah.
And so whenever my girlfriend says, don't I give you joy? I had to tell her, you give me happiness, some joy, but nothing's going to give me forever joy.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I explained to her where happiness comes from and where joy comes from. And she agreed at the end of it. She goes, you know what? I get joy from God, but you're right.
Yeah.
She goes, I get happiness from you, Matt, but it's not forever lasting.
Which is so huge because you get into a relationship, you're expecting this person to give you joy. What happened when you got the craps all day long? You're stuck in the bathroom. Am I joyless? You know what I'm saying? Somebody's going to have a bad day.
Absolutely.
But God never has a bad day.
Yeah.
He stays the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He's
It's
just
impossible.
faithful. He's consistent.
God's
consistent, you know?
Yeah, that's where...
His love for you is consistent. He's never ticked off at Matt. He's never given up on Matt. He's never frustrated by Matt. You know, and that's where human emotion goes up and down.
Every day.
You know, but he is steady with it.
That's what, to me, when somebody would ask me, what's the most expensive thing in your life that you ever bought or have? And I will say, old-faced my relationship with God is my most expensive thing I will ever own or have in my life. And I say, you know what? What's unfortunate, I can't sell it to anybody because if I could, I would, but I can't.
Yeah.
If I can basically tell somebody that they can quickly go on to Amazon and buy it, I would if I could, but I can't.
Yeah.
The only way to earn and have a relationship with God is to physically put in your own time, effort, and energy. And then you can earn it. But once it's yours, it's yours for life. And you have it. And you know how expensive it was because the emotions and the ups and downs that I had to go through in life to get where I'm at today. It is very expensive.
And that's why you made a comment earlier about what kind of pastor I am. Honestly, every room I walk into, I tell people that people call me pastor, but I'm not, dude. I'm just somebody who met Jesus, bro. And when I met him, dude, I met him on a basketball court, which they turned into a volleyball court in rehab because we were all ex-convicts out of jail.
Wow.
And they figured if we played basketball, we'd get in a fight. Got a bunch of grown men playing volleyball. It's too silly to even fight about, you know?
Yeah.
But I remember being out there, bro, and I had this emotion. Man, God had just broken this addiction off of me. And I had this emotion that overtook me. So powerful, bro. And it was better than any high that I've ever had. And I've smoked everything from duct tape to gunpowder to crack to meth to all of it, you know. But I had this high, this emotion that came over me to the point where I'm on this volleyball court and I just almost, man, the biggest smile I've ever smiled in my life. Wow. And I almost just start laughing. This is the first time that I had felt and experienced joy from the inside out.
Wow, yes.
And I knew right then and there that it was that good that I had to go tell somebody else about it. And I knew right then and there too, you know, sometimes, coming from the drug life, if you get some good dope, you're like, I'm gonna keep this to myself. You don't know if it's gonna last, you know? Yeah. But I knew that this was in such a rich resource and provided so heavily. I was like, man, I've got to tell everybody about this. Let's talk about that, bro. I mean, joy is literally what everybody is looking for.
Oh, it's the most expensive thing I own. Because it's just like whatever the world brings you, it's all in camouflage to think they're going to give you joy. But I want to show you, I have it up right here, what Will Smith thinks of joy.
Yeah.
The material world is utterly incapable of providing lasting happiness. It's just you have to get to the ends of the things and still be miserable to realize that. People talk about rock bottom. I coined a phrase that there's a corresponding place I call it cliff top, where you wear out everything in the material world. It is an absolute abyss when you realize that there's nothing left in this world to reach for to make you happy. And then you realize that the final frontier is getting your inner house in order with no women, with no drugs, with no money, with nothing. Can you cultivate a joyful spirit just with you and you?
Wow. That's wild.
So Will Smith just said that he's reached the top. He calls it cliff top. So there's a man with everything the world has to offer him, but he's still not happy.
Yeah.
He said it matter the women, the money, the drugs. And then where he misses it, unfortunately for Will, and I do pray that he does find this one, where he misses it, and he goes, you have to get your inner house in order, meaning your mind in order, to cultivate a joy with me and me.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's got to be hard.
that's not going to work. You missed the equation here. Because here's the truth. There's a God-sized hole in every person in the world. And only God can fill up that hole.
Yeah.
And a person like Will Smith that can honestly look in the eyes of this podcast he was on and say, I'm not happy.
Which is a great start. A great start. Because all along we've been sold the celebrity, this is where you can find joy. And then they just end up killing themselves or like OD and we're like, oh, maybe he wasn't happy.
And that's at least he's at the point where he's like, man, I'm not happy. But where he went wrong, he goes, I got to find my inner happiness with just me and me. Yeah. Well, that's going to lead him down. I'll tell you what me and me does. It gets you empty.
Yeah.
Whenever you give some more of me and me, give me another side of me, give me another order of me, you're going down into the abyss in a pit of unhappiness and depression.
Sure.
And so the thing what Jesus taught is that, you want to get joy? First off, accept me as the creator and your savior. Once you that's a big thing to do.
Yeah.
But then start serving others.
Yeah.
The opposite of what Will is
Take
saying.
all that you have and give it to the poor.
Well, yeah. And it even starts with like, love your neighbor and go help your neighbor. Literally, you can just walk across your street and go help your neighbor. You're going to get joy because that's how Jesus has this DNA wired. He didn't wire us and create us in the womb to come out and say, me, your entire life.
Which even secular leadership books now are really beginning to realize, for a while, they say even the progression as a child, you grow up and the most important things to you are things. You want, it's my toy. It's my this, it's my that, it's that. And then they say typically from there it progresses to experiences. I want to experience love. I want to lose my virginity. I want to travel. I want to see this. But they say the highest place to find yourself, the highest resource to have in your life is truly people, which God has called us to.
Yeah.
Because he says when you serve the least of these, when you serve somebody else who can give nothing back to you, he says, then you're serving me. Which he doesn't mean like being a Christian. Like he means you're getting face to face with Jesus himself. Whenever you get face to face with the homeless, with the hurting, with the lost, with the broken.
Wait, pop quiz, because I read this last night. I read my Bible basically every day.
I hope I've been on it, bro. If
You got
pastor
it.
pop quiz me.
I know, because what you just said is literally what popped up in my reading last night. So I'm pop quizzing you. Do you know what verse where Jesus says, when you serve the least, you're serving me?
Why are you doing this to me on camera,
Because
bro?
I got it last night on my phone. I'll give you
Matthew?
a hint. Huh?
Matt, it's in one of the Gospels.
Mark.
I know that. Mark.
I was in
Mark 10. I knew it was in Mark 10, dude. Oh, I was going to say Matthew 10. Is it 25?
No, I think it's Mark 9.
All right, Mark 9.
And
That's what I meant.
It literally was talking about it, and I was like, man, that's profound. Now, what I also want to say about serving others, and you see you just said the secular leaders are now saying the key to this thing is people.
Yeah.
And not me, not things. It's people in your life. Well, Dan Balzerian, I think that's how you say his name.
I hope so.
Dan the man is what they call him. And I think he has like 20 to 30 or 40 million Instagram.
Yeah. He's like the archetype of what any young man in the world wants to become.
The worldliest of worldly. I'm not judging. I'm just saying the dude represents, I got money. I like to gamble. I like to sleep with multiple women. And I like polygamy and all the things that this world has. I have a private jet. Look at me. Got me. I
everything
have yachts.
you could literally ever want.
Yeah. As a man, as the world says. So what I just saw on the internet is Dan coming out with this, that he is starting to rethink his own happiness.
Wow.
Because he's been doing this a while, 10, 15 years of living for himself.
He's ripped that cliff top.
That cliff top.
Him and Will need to get together, go to church, man.
Look, this is Dan the man.
Like if I only had sex with 2 girls in a day, that was like we're having some real off day or something, right?
Yeah.
And some days 4, sometimes 5, 7. The most was 9. I had this image in my mind when I was growing up of like how awesome this would be. I don't know. What I kind of landed on was I think it's like better to have a monogamous relationship, strange as that is coming from me. One cool girl that does stuff with you that you actually have a mental connection with.
Wild.
Yeah. I mean, if we just watch Dan Balzerian on a podcast say, I think it's better to be...
Everything is not enough.
Yeah. If that isn't 2 examples, I know however you're going to watch this podcast, but if you're just watching it in a small piece, we went over that Will Smith just kind of said he has everything, but he's empty, and he's still trying to figure out life.
Yeah.
Dan Balzerian has everything, and he's still trying to figure this thing out.
Yeah.
And it's to me, the answer has always been there.
Yeah. We're getting to a place, man, where people want authenticity. And it's like even these big celebrities are getting to a place where they're tired of the fake. Carl Lentz, bro, who was a great pastor, ended up cheating on his wife 5 years ago. Horrible deal. Hulu did a documentary about it. Really? But he talks about how he just got caught up. I mean, he was powerful. He had everything at the end of his fingertips. But he talked about that cliff top where he had so much pleasure. It got to a place where he's running into places and speaking to crowds of 30, 50,000 people left and right. He's got finances at his fingertips. He's hanging out with Justin Bieber, this and that. He said he got to a place where he just couldn't feel anything. Oh. You know, and even talking about the psychology of how God makes us. God makes us where he'll allow us to chase ourselves down, and then eventually you burn out your pleasure receptors.
Wow. And you said it best. God he made us not to be worshiped. He made us to worship him, not to be worshiped. So it should feel very odd and bizarre if you have a clifftop experience going on in your life. And I don't think you need all the money and all the women and all the cars. I think clifftop for a lot of people in America and in this world is that you can get married to a great-looking girl who you love. Yeah. And then you can have your kids.
2.5 kids and a white picket fence.
And then all of a sudden, you felt like, okay, I got the house, I got the car, I got my wife, I got my kids. Mm-hmm. And that's what you dreamed about as you're growing up, because that's the American dream. You got the dog, the white picket fence, but you cliff top because you're like, man, everybody told me that's where I get this happiness and joy. It's
not there.
And you're empty. Yeah. And you're like, this whole realm is feeling missing inside.
And this is where midlife crises start. This is where the red Corvettes make their sales. This is where that secretary in your office finally gets her promotion.
That red used car lot Corvette salesman says, you know what would really make you happy right now? Yeah. This 1995 T-Top. I mean, it's on sale. We got good financing, and it's going to make you feel really good.
And you're in your 40s, and you go back to cutting your hair like Matt. Mullet on the sides.
You get the mullet, you get the Corvette that's used on a good financing deal, and then you just start rocking and rolling. Yeah. And you hit that rock bottom.
But I was thinking about this, man. Like, all right, if you can hit this cliff top, you know, how does that not happen in following Jesus and this and that? And I think, one, spiritually, you know, there's always, like, I've been reading the Bible for 13 years now, and I am fully convinced there's more about the Bible that I don't know than there is that I do know. And then, two, when you begin to make life about others, you become, like the Bible calls, a fisher of men, which, you know, he's talking to fishermen right there. You may be a bricklayer. He's talking about you becoming a bricklayer of men, or somebody else becoming whatever it is you do of men, which means you're seeking to serve the lost and to bring people to him. You know, it's always an adventure. Bro, I find myself in some of the most crazy places.
I'm sorry, I have a bad, nasty joke.
Go for
Whenever
it.
you say a bricklayer of men, I was just hoping you wouldn't say a pipe layer of men. I was like, please don't say a pipe layer. We don't need to be laying
pipe. If you're on that, you do need to change your career.
No, but the fishermen of men. So Marla preached Sunday, and one of the things she said, she goes something about the Great Commission, I think, towards the end. And maybe she said this, maybe not, but it was something that it wasn't a great suggestion.
Yeah.
But the Great Commission is a real thing that once you start doing this real walk with God and trying to live your life and being a servant of Christ, it's not a suggestion that you should go try to talk to people about God and Jesus. It is actually a commission. It's a commandment that Jesus said to do. And I really feel like if anybody's out there listening and you feel kind of
stuck,
vanilla about your faith, kind of stale, it doesn't have any flavor or spice right now. Have you looked at that Great Commission and actually tried it out?
Which is so wild, because you talk about even like the 12 steps. The last one is you go back and you serve somebody else. Wow. Psychologically, it does something. You know, one time I was doing offering at service or whatever and telling people about all the mission trips. And the truth is, man, we have I don't know, 6, 7, all online, counting maybe 8 to 10,000 people that'll watch a service on a Sunday. And as up here, pitching these mission trips that people can be a part of, serving all around the planet, man, it just hit me. I don't know if it was the Holy Ghost or what, but that only maybe 5% of our church is actually going to get out of their comfort zone. Ooh. And it broke my heart, and I almost felt like God's heart being broken, because what that also means is that only 5% is going to see the fullness of who God is. Because if serving people is getting face to face with Jesus, and I tell this people all the time, like, we're in such a consumeristic society. Even they come to church, they just want to consume. Yeah. Even people watching some of the clips from this, they're probably just trying to find an encouraging word so they can go on and build their business or whatnot. But like, if you find yourself stuck, I think that before you even go try, maybe, hopefully you are reading your Bible or whatever, but before you go join another Bible study, before you go a week-long fast, which fasting is great, Bible studies are great, before you go to 5 more prayer meetings, try serving somebody else. Try obeying that commission.
Bang the gavel on that. It's true.
It's sometimes not even found at the altar. It's found in the face of the homeless. It's found in the face of the hurting person.
Dude, I swear, my first stint of depression, I was in high school. I was a junior. And I said, I'm empty inside. I got everything I need. Sorry, Bruno, I just elbowed you. I got everything I need, and I was depressed. You know what got me out of it?
What was that?
Serving others. I went and I volunteered to go help this campus ministry group go do this weekend event to where we got to help kids.
Yeah.
Dude, I got to help kids, and I got my mind off of myself, and I started feeling better. And God taught me as like a 15 or 16-year-old, dude growing up in a very consumeristic environment where everybody's about me. As soon as I went and served others, I felt lifted up, and I forgot about my problems.
Yes. I find even in my own life, like, we get, I don't know if God looks at even the sin in our life the way that we do sometimes. We get sometimes hung up on these things that we want to do, that we want to stop doing, that we whatever. And I find even that sometimes when you finally take your eyes off of yourself and put them on somebody else, then finally God can do a work inside of you and knock some of that stuff off your life,
It is so counterintuitive to know that if I help others, it helps me.
Yeah.
You're not born to think that way.
That's the gospel.
That's the gospel, and that's the spiritual side. That's why the world is seeking something that's going to make them full of joy, because it's you got to go live it, and because if you hear this right now, you're not going to really understand it unless you go live
experience
it. So the only way to see if what we're talking about is accurate, why we're getting excited about being full of joy, is like, go literally stop what you're doing, go help your neighbor across your street.
Yeah.
Say, can I do something for you today? You need your trash taken out, or
don't cut their grass. I read this meme the other day that said one of my neighbors cut my grass, and it was the single most nicest thing anyone's ever done for me, yet the largest act of war I've ever had. People are picky about the grass. Oh, but go serve it, dude. Yeah, he didn't do it right or whatever, but go serve somebody, man. Well, we live in a time where people don't even know their neighbors anymore. No. Man, we are more connected via social media than ever before, yet people find themselves the loneliest they've ever been. Man, counselors and psychiatrists, they're overbooked because people don't have genuine relationship in their life anymore. Wow. And I'm all about counseling and therapists and all this, but half of the time you just need somebody to go talk to about the crap in your life. And you don't have a real friend that you can trust with it,
That's true, because if you just talk to your neighbors more and start having that, even a surface relationship with them, and let's say you start helping them out a little bit, you're going to be conversating and making this natural thing occur that is missing in society because of phones.
Yeah.
I grew up talking to my neighbors, even though some of them I didn't love or like, but it was like, I didn't have my phone.
You did life with them.
You kind of just started conversating, doing it.
When you needed some sugar for your Kool-Aid, you couldn't call Uber Eats to come bring you some sugar.
Exactly.
You had to go ask your neighbor for it.
And that's where there is a serious depletion out there of joy. And a lot of it to do is with the phone, because people are scrolling and getting that, I don't know what it's called.
Dopamine.
Dopamine?
Yeah, so I'm a big dopamine guy, man.
You know what's
No,
that?
like it is like you literally social media, Facebook. They've done studies. Your brain produces depression chemical looking through social media.
Oh, so dopamine's bad.
Yeah, so dopamine
What's
is good.
serotonin?
Serotonin is your well-being. So dopamine and serotonin kind of do this dance. They're your biggest neurotransmitters. Dopamine is what's responsible for motivation, what's responsible for pleasure. So what happens is people constantly go to their phone and you get immediate pleasure. You're seeing beautiful things. You're seeing pretty things.
What is that producing?
It
dopamine?
dumps your dopamine.
Oh, it dumps.
So dopamine
okay.
is a non-infinite yet renewable resource.
Gotcha.
Which that means is you can run out of it, but you can build it back up. Which you only build it back up by doing things you don't want to do.
Wow.
But whenever you go to something like pornography, where you're getting all the pleasure with none of the work, all of your dopamine just pours out.
Wow.
Then it flushes out, and then this depression chemical begins to be made in your brain. That's why anything that gives you pleasure without work is not a good thing.
Wow.
Look at fast food, McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? Pornography. You're not pursuing it. You don't have to pursue a girl anymore. You can just get the pleasure out of just doing this.
Jeez.
Drugs. It's pleasure without work.
And you wonder why Jesus harped on serving others.
Yeah.
'Cause it's something that you don't instinctually want to do.
Not only
it's
serving
gonna
others,
rebuild your dopamine level.
but he says,
do
you know,
things that are hard.
If your eye causes you to sin because you're checking out some chick's butt, when you literally do what you don't want to do, or don't do what you want to do, it creates dopamine.
Wow.
So even following in the commandments and the laws that God has given, which, you know, I'm not legalistic, but God has given us commandments and laws and a
Not
moral,
too many, about
a
10
moral
of them.
code to live in. He says even when you do these psychologically, neurologically, you're producing more and more dopamine,
That is
which is
insane.
giving you a bigger sense of well-being and a sense of wanting to do something, motivation to continue to build something and grow something.
And it took tens of thousands of scientists to figure out that, but yet it was already
Yeah, it's in the Word.
It's already in the Word. And like I like that you said, we don't want to be legalistic as Christians, because that's not what this is about. But if there's some suggestions, or it's not suggestions, there's some commandments that are not for God, they're for you.
Yeah.
And what if you hear this out there? What if these commandments help you build dopamine levels that is chemically proven by scientists to help you have better well-being in your life?
Yeah.
And it's already written, like, if it's tough for you not to look at pornography and you don't look at it, you're going to help yourself.
Yeah.
You know, if it says honor thy mother and thy father, and you're struggling with that because you can't forgive what your dad did, but you start to honor him in some capacity, you're going to build dopamine.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to suck it up. And we live in a place now where nobody wants to do what they don't want to do.
Oh, that is...
We're just in
That's the
comfort,
epidemic.
and we sit down. And even technology is great, but it's making it to where more and more we don't actually have to do something.
Well, not to talk about me, but you did ask to have me on your podcast. No, I'm kidding. But what everybody asked me, Matt, how do I get to do what you do? Because people see that I make hunting and outdoor products. That's kind of neat if you like to hunt. And then they see me on outdoor TV, and the social media stuff that I do is kind of wacky, weird hunts, fun. And I think the world kind of comes to me and they're like, well, Matt, how do I get to do what you do?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Which I'm very flattered about that. But you know what I really do is I do the things that I don't want to do.
Yeah.
Which is, if I go film one of these weird hunts that goes viral, I have to wake up early. I have to get dressed in certain clothing from sponsors.
Yeah.
That they make me wear.
Yeah.
I have to do these certain things that I kind of just not, but hunting is what I love.
Yeah.
But what comes after, if I kill a big deer, I have to go to what's called the edit room, or the kids call it the lab.
Yeah.
I do not want to go edit video.
You edit your own video?
No, I sit there with my editors for thousands and thousands of hours.
Yeah, that sounds like
to
pain.
produce content. So you go sit in a lab and edit these videos. I'm talking about every move that we make, I look over, I direct, I produce, and have to build the product that the world sees. But when I say, how do you do that? You got to go do what nobody sees for thousands of hours. And then they might watch 9 minutes of thousands or hundreds of hours of work for that 9-minute video.
Yeah.
And so
it's not like you just hunt all day long.
no, there's not a crew of videographers chasing me around. Matt, can you do that again? No, like I hire a guy that the most talented guy that I can afford to hire, and we go film, then we go to the edit suite, we work, then we produce, and then thousands of hours later, you start to get this content that reaches people.
Yeah.
But I guess I point that to the dopamine conversation is that where the discipline in my life is when it's worldly discipline is that I go do the work that a lot of people don't want to do, which is go spend the countless hours to film and then go spend the countless hours in edit.
Yeah.
And then once you finally do all that, you have a product that not a lot of people are willing to go do. But while I'm doing that work,
you're building that dopamine.
I'm building my dopamine. But I'm not going to sit here and say I don't enjoy my work.
Yeah.
Because I love what I do, but it is work. And Solomon wrote about this. You know how Solomon was the richest, wealthiest, most wisest man that ever existed? As I study Solomon's life, I love it because his dad casted a big shadow on him. His dad was David, King David.
Greatest king to ever live.
Yeah. So imagine he's got to live in the shadow of his dad.
Yeah.
And how do you make a name for yourself whenever your dad's King David? Well, for me, my dad was a big figure. He was well known and cast a big shadow, so I was like, how do I make a name for myself?
Yeah.
And I started looking at Solomon's life. And what's crazy, Solomon did make a big shadow. He became the wealthiest, richest king with all these accolades, wisdom, and just
people came from everywhere. Kings came from everywhere just to see him, listen to him
Queen
talk.
of Sheba. But yet he expanded God's kingdom. He was very on it.
Purposeful.
But at the end of his life, he became pretty upset.
Says that his multiple wives turned his heart from the things of God.
Exactly. And so, but if you study the end of his life, I started looking at what he was saying. And one of the things, and I can't quote it, but what I remember him saying is that he goes, there's only like a few rewards on this earth. Because I think he wasn't being that spiritual at this point.
Yeah.
He's like, everything's futile, which means meaningless.
Yeah, Ecclesiastes.
And so he's going through this thing. He's like, there's only one guaranteed reward is how I remember reading it. And I'm not going to try to pervert the word, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm just going to say it how I remember it. It was like, there's only one reward that's basically guaranteed. And he didn't say it was your wife, it wasn't your kids, because your wife can pass away, your kids can pass away. He goes, it's your labor.
Yeah.
It's what you do for work. And I took that to heart, because I was like, man, if Solomon, in his worldly phase of his life, says the only reward that you have on earth is your work and your labor, I said, I'm going to try to work and labor at something that brings me a reward
purpose
and happiness
and life
and joy and happiness.
Which even Jesus, go ahead.
No, but I'm saying it hit a tone. If my work or what I choose to do on this earth is my only reward, according to Solomon on this earth, I'm going to try to do something that I love.
Yeah.
And and then I learned I can bring purpose and meaning into my career and help spread the gospel where I work. So Solomon, even though he was writing this very depressed thing, it was a depressing thing, I extracted something that was very motivating for me and kind of steered my whole career to where I'm at today, because me and God made a deal that I'm going to try to make a career in hunting and outdoor products, but I'm going to bring God in my career, and maybe I can help expand the kingdom through my work. All right, so Chris, I want you to watch this video about evolution.
Is none of them have ever been observed. Number one, that life comes from non-life. We have not one single example of life coming from non-life. Number two, that all the life forms that we have today came from single cell life forms. many people do not know that while we do have single-cell life forms that we call bacteria, we have no two-cell life forms. We don't have three-cell life forms. We don't have four-cell life forms. We don't even have five-cell life forms. That is, we go from single-cell bacteria to complex life forms. So there's no evidence that all life comes from single-cell life forms. The third postulate of evolution is that time and chance drive evolution forward, of course, and time works against evolution. The chance of one simple 100-unit protein coming together by accident is a very big number. Time and chance make evolution absolutely impossible. The fourth postulate that evolution is based on is that what we see today, minor genetic variation in species, is evidence of macroevolution. So because cats are different colors, dogs are different sizes, that means that fish turned into cows. And of course, we know that that's not true because Mendel proved that all the genes that exist today, you can shuffle them around, but there are no new genes that were created.
Wow, that's wild. That last one, dude.
Yeah, that fish turned to cows because of some sort of evolution theory. I know I was in school growing up. We were taught evolution.
Yeah.
And I went to one of those smart schools, it was like private school, and that's where the smart people went. I didn't fit in. I like sports, I like to hunt and fish. But they were teaching evolution. They're still, I think, of course, teaching evolution in school. But I have struggled now because I've been just TikToking and watching Instagram Reels like we just watched. I don't think I believe in it.
Yeah.
I don't think I believe in it anymore. It just seems too far-fetched.
For me, it takes more faith to believe that me and you are sitting here because two rocks collided than to believe that some life source that created us with this God-shaped hole in our heart, because that's most of our stories. Despite whatever you believe, you got two people that was their experience, that we found fulfillment in him.
Yes.
You know, it's easier for me to believe in that than it is for me to have enough faith to believe that two rocks flew into each other and created me and you.
Well, then the whole thing that I can't believe in evolution is you've said it perfectly. Two rocks couldn't have big banged to form me and you. But let's just say there was the impossible that a rock came from nothing.
Yeah.
First off,
which is wild.
You can't believe that. Then you can't believe that the Big Bang formed more rocks. But how did the rocks become animated and living beings?
Yeah.
That's impossible.
Yeah.
Then that theory of evolution says that single-cell organisms say that became humans, but then they had to be fish. Then fish became cows, then cows became humans. Everything about it, I'm now like, no.
That's wild.
I got a whole bunch of no, it's red
That's
flags.
wild.
I can't do it. And I know that all my friends that I grew up with that went to these smart schools, they're going to look me in the eye, especially if they're watching this. They're like, you don't believe in evolution?
Yeah.
And they're going to be shocked. But
That's
I just
crazy.
don't believe in it.
Yeah.
But I guess if you're one of those, that are going to say that I'm wrong, that evolution is real, they're going to probably hit in the comments that would say, well, where did your God come from?
Yeah.
It's the same argument.
Yeah.
And then so then I would say, well, the God that I worship, he can't, the fathom of God, the God's existence, he lives outside of time, space, and matter. And he always has. And our human brains can't even comprehend
that. Yeah.
So that's where my spirituality and my faith has to kick in, that my brain will never understand the creation
but
of
there's
this
a humility. There's a humility that comes in that. Where I think a lot of evolution is pride. People want control. They want to be able to say, I understand this, because people fear what they don't understand.
You're right.
You know, so they're saying, hey, at least if I can make myself understand this, then I'm in control of this thing. It's huge. And I think you ask that same person, like, I would love to just have a conversation, not even about this. I would like to have a conversation about our experience in life. What has been your experience? When you lay your head down at night, do you have peace?
Yes.
Do you have joy? Do you feel like you live life to its fullest today?
Well, I got to show you one more video because you just said something that resonates. It says, like, hey, unless you show me Jesus is real or God's real, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
So here's Cliff. He's the dude who goes on campuses.
Oh, Cliff.
He looks like a nerd, by the
Yeah.
way. Love him. But here's
He's
a
brilliant.
video of him talking to somebody about, I need 100% evidence that Jesus is real before I believe him.
In order for me to be satisfied, I need to have, I know you don't like the word proof, but beyond reasonable doubt evidence to support a claim. Like 2 + 2 = 4. That's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean, right? Every scenario, we've never had a case where 2 + 2 = 5.
Okay, good.
You can't even fathom it.
Do you need that kind of evidence before you can make a decision?
You start talking about error tolerances and, what is good enough for me to believe it. Yeah, I mean,
Then you'll never get married.
it's got to be.
You can't go to sleep tonight if you have a roommate. Because there is no way that you have 2 + 2 = 4 type of certainty that roommate's not going to stick a knife in your back as you lie asleep on your bed. You can't drive a car because you do not have 2 + 2 = 4 type of certainty that the guy coming towards the red light when you go through and it's green is going to stop. You don't know he's not going to run that red light and send you to an early grave. You guys are making a fundamental mistake. You're thinking that in order to know something, you have to have such a preponderance of evidence, basically proof, in order to believe it. You can't live that way. Now, you better not be a gullible fool and just blindly trust. So if you're going to push this inerrancy issue and laugh at Christians who believe the Bible's the inerrant word of God, knowing full well that there are thousands of manuscripts and thousands of manuscript variations. Come on, buddy, you're playing.
So what I take away is similar to people that believe in evolution. The pride that they have, that they understand how the world was created. They also will say, I can't believe in Jesus because I don't have the proof and the evidence that I need to feel like I can believe in Jesus. Similar to the evolution.
Yeah.
So Cliff breaks it down that, well, then how do you live
How do
your
you
life?
get around?
If everything you do is based upon your absolute need for proof
Yeah.
that it exists for you to go forward, what are you going to do? Go hide in your basement?
But for me, it's not even that. It's like, why is it that people only have this issue with Jesus?
Oh.
They don't have this issue with Islam. They don't have this issue. There's more documented proof of Jesus' existence than there is of Socrates.
Wow.
Yet every college studies his work. They don't get up and debate him.
Yes.
How do you know he
true.
existed? How do you know he was real?
That's so true.
But it's only Jesus that they've got this fight against.
Exactly.
And then a lot of I get the atheist and agnostic, whichever one believes that nothing exists, which is always so odd to me that they go out on college campuses and with signs that say God's not real. So you're telling me that you're spending your time to fight against something. You're spending your life to fight against something that you believe doesn't exist.
Yeah.
No, my boy, you're trying to convince yourself. You're
what
trying to
it is.
reconvince yourself.
I've never heard that before. That's so true. They're out there fighting and protesting against
What they say
something
doesn't
they say
exist.
is not in existence.
Yeah.
And so what are they fighting? Ghosts?
Yeah.
What are they up to? Because I think they are. They're trying to prove to themselves that they're right, that I can live how I want to live, because there's 10 little things in a Bible that one of those 10 I just don't want to have to deal with.
Yeah.
So they don't like what I believe atheists and agnostic, they deal with what most humans have to deal with. That there has to be a little bit of faith, sometimes a lot of faith, but a little bit of faith and a little bit of obedience.
Yeah.
And whenever you say, here, you can have the most joy and comfort and peace in your life, but you got to accept a couple things, and it's going to take a little faith and a little bit of obedience. Humans are like,
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to them. They don't understand. And that's why Jesus said, I'm going to take the foolish things of this world to shame the wise. It's crazy. It's profound. The things that don't make sense is what's going to make the most sense.
and then he's, 2,000 years ago, he was physically here. There's historical evidence that he was here.
The most documented living being there ever was.
And by far the most famous documented person that ever lived. I mean, Hitler's up there.
So there isn't anyone who actually studies knows that there is no debate on whether or not Jesus himself was real.
There's no debate on
There's no debate, even for a well-studied agnostic atheist. It's just the fact that you have to decide, is he Lord, lunatic, or liar?
Yeah.
And the fact that this many people, he must have had some kind of impact.
There's
He
something
must have
going
had something, bro.
I mean, what time is it? 6 p.m. and it's July 9th. So 2024. If you rewind the clock, this is a date and a time that the whole world is telling time and a date from Jesus.
Mm-hmm. The whole world revolves around. Time revolves around.
If there's 8 billion people looking at their phone or their watch telling the date and time based upon one man, that's pretty profound. Yeah. That makes me think that man might be more than a man.
You know what I think about? It says, that every tongue shall confess, every knee shall bow, and every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord. Every time you look at your clock, you're bowing your knee.
Wow.
You're confessing that Jesus is Lord. This is what time it is, because this is when he lived 2,024 years ago.
And I can't remember if it's from his birth or from his death.
It's a little bit off. It's like 30 years off or something like that.
And notice when you Google it now, they try to change it.
Really?
Oh, dude, they don't. The atheists. So you got to realize, Google is a bunch of far-leaning.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So whenever you got, I believe that the enemy is alive and well in our social media and tech companies and Googles. And if you say, why is the calendar based upon Jesus? I think it's going to spin this search to, it's like, look, it's a first line of Google results. Why is a calendar based upon Jesus? Part of the story of the Anno Domini time takes us back to the 4th and 5th century. They don't talk about Jesus in the first line. They talk about Anno Domino in the 4th and 5th century. Then it kind of starts to say, when Christian scholars like Eusebius of Sisera and John Chrysostom were trying to calculate what they considered was the beginning of Christian time, they don't even mention, then there's a dash at the bottom right here. In other words, the birth date of Jesus of Nazareth. They completely camouflage Jesus of why people are telling time.
All I know, bro, is you're going to be documented on this podcast. And if you came here and told me that, hey, I'm the Son of God, and you even had 200 people behind you saying, Matt's the Son of God, Matt's the Son of God, 2,000 years from now, nobody's going to know who you are, bro.
No.
Unless you pull some bunnies out of a hat and let me look in the hat and make sure it's not rigged, He had to have done something that marked people's lives. Not just then, but now.
Now.
Continually. Daily.
And that's the thing. That there's a large group of people, and I hate to say it like this, but there's a large group of Christians, I don't think, that really know Jesus yet, because he speaks about it in Revelation to lukewarm Christians. And I, God forbid, I'm not trying to say anything other than, not only do we have lukewarm Christians that really don't know what Jesus can do in their life because they're holding back with their relationship with him, but also they don't, the very mass amounts, billions of people who don't know Jesus because of other religions or atheism.
People confused and stuff.
How can we get the word out there that this is real? It's expensive because it takes time, effort, and energy of every Christian out there that has a real relationship with God.
Yeah.
You got to kind of get out there and do your thing. Start living a life that is attractive, that is with God on your side. You're going to be able to lure people to be able to tell them about God, and you can get out there, put yourself out there, talk about God more, because really, to go be a fisherman of men, it takes work.
Yeah.
It takes
work on yourself, man.
Yeah,
spending time with God. He's the source. You know, and I think it is easier as we go on, man, as the world becomes more depressed, to be a light of shining. And somebody says, man, he's always got something. You know, he's always got a little smile on his face. What's that about? And I think it's becoming more and more attractive now. And the truth is most of us won't ever change the world, but you can change one person's world. And that's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot.
And if you can change one person, there's a celebration in heaven.
Just thinking about that little boy who thought you were homeless, bro. Like, dude, like that day that you took time and invested into him, though, and, bro, he changed his world. Like, he'll be marked by that for the rest of his life. And it wasn't nothing much for you. It was just simple, you know, open your shop, hang out, you know, whatever.
Yeah, Kelvin thought I was homeless. Came up to me at a coffee shop, and
we'll link the We'll link the news story or something.
Yeah, made the news. But yeah, that was. But you know, that was Jesus. Jesus is written all throughout that story, and we'll wrap up with this because recently, a 9-year-old kid thought I was homeless because of the way I was in a corner praying in a coffee shop in the courtyard, trying to think I was hiding.
You look pretty creepy, bro.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have thought homeless. I would have thought just drug addicts, still high from the night before or something.
In hindsight, I do look kind of. I've been on something, but I'm in there. I'm on the courtyard praying. This kid walks up, hands me $1, and I was like, "Whoa! Why are you doing that?" He goes, "Sir, are you homeless?" I was like, "No, I'm not homeless." Dude.
Just in case you didn't know, you're homeless, bro.
Thank you. And so I said, "Kelvin, you inspired me." I said, "Dude, you inspired me." His name's Kelvin. And I said, he's like, "What?" I said, "Can I buy you a snack or, you know, something in the coffee shop?" He goes, "Well, let me ask my dad." So he comes in there and I said, "Man, you don't know what you did, but you did something that Jesus talks about in the Bible." And you said you gave me your only $1 in your pocket and because you wanted to help. And I said, there's a story in the Bible about it, and it's about a widow that was in this temple. Back in the day, they didn't have like churches and stuff like we do, like mega, you know, big buildings, but there was like synagogues and temples. And there were some Jewish Pharisees and Jewish leaders, but I think they were kind of making fun of a widow woman that came and gave like some pennies.
Yeah,
very
all
small.
She had, but yeah.
And so Jesus made a point about how good that woman was.
She was more blessed than the man who gave everything.
Yeah.
Or who gave a large amount.
No, like she was saying what she gave is more than what you guys gave, who are sitting there in the back kind of making fun of what she gave, because she gave everything she had to God and to help others. And so her rewards are great.
Yeah.
And Kelvin, the little kid, the innocence of a kid, that's what I love about the story. If you ever watch it, he gave his only $1 to help somebody else. So in God's eyes, his rewards are huge. Yeah. And I got to explain that to Kelvin.
That's awesome.
And by the way, the worldly side of that is that he gave me $1, and I gave him a free shopping spree at my store, at the Buck Feather store in Perkins Road.
Plug. Shoot the address. I'm not trying to plug it, but Buck Feather, Perkins Row, sweet.
Come see us. We make American-made apparel. But I said, go take whatever you want in this store. You get a shopping spree of 30 seconds. And he looks at me and goes, "Let's make it 40 seconds.
Entrepreneur, bro.
Oh, yeah. And I said, all right, let's make it 40 seconds. But he picked up a $2,000 electric bike. He picked up a BB air gun, Accubow. Yeah. Anyway, he walked out of there with maybe $2,500 worth of swag. And at the exact moment he's doing this, my financial advisor randomly walks into my store.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Matt, what's going on?" I said, "The kid offered me $1, so I'm giving him a shopping spree."
Yeah.
And he grabbed that little boy, because this guy, he's from Baton Rouge. He invests some big people's money. Like, I'm talking major money. So this dude knows how to invest.
Yeah.
And he grabs that little boy. He goes, "You just made the wisest dollar investment I've ever seen in my life.
Returns are crazy."
Yeah. And so he's thinking about the worldly investment.
Yeah.
And I had just gotten to talk to Kelvin about his spiritual investment.
But such a picture, bro, of what we've been talking about. When you serve the least of these, you serve Jesus.
Yes.
He came to serve you, but he met Jesus in a sense.
He did.
And it changed his life. Jesus will always outserve you.
Oh, yeah.
When you go serve somebody else, you get repaid in joy.
He outgives
purpose,
you.
in patience. Yes, he outgives you every time.
Every time.
So good, bro. So good. Well, thanks for coming to hang with us, Matt.
Thanks for having
Buspice.
me.
Check Matt out, man. He's all over social media, all over internet. Store in Perkins Row, obviously.
Yeah, check us out, Buckfeather USA. Matt Buspice on the socials. Acubo Tectonic. I'm a businessman. I'm a product guy. I'm a redneck.
It's been fun, though, bro. Hopefully you enjoyed this thing. Share, like, subscribe, man. Comment. Want to hear what you think. Send some parts maybe to somebody that you maybe needs to hear. Maybe they're lacking joy in life, whatever it may be. But Matt, thanks for hanging out with us, man. Like we always say on this podcast, I forgot to give Matt the heads up that life can be tough, but God is still so good.
Amen.